I don't even know where to start this testimony, but I have to share it because when God does something good for you, you can't keep it to yourself. You have to share it so it can motivate other people, and also so other people can see the glory of God. So if you haven't seen my previous video, you know, how God told me to quit my job, now this is a follow-up to let everyone know that God came through. Like, y'all, like, he came through, like, more than what I would have even like asked for. Okay, so when God tells you to do something, you have to listen, because if you don't listen, you can't blame him for what happens afterwards. Okay, so I quit my job back in August, my nurse practitioner job back in August. It became too much for me, and it just didn't feel like the right fit. I stayed because, you know, the money was good and I didn't have anything else full time at that time, so I kept with it. Anyways, God kept telling me something kept telling me to quit, and I didn't. And I finally decided to quit, and that was in August. Today is November 17th. I quit in August, and then I took about 1 week off, and I didn't even apply for any job. I just wanted to rest and just mentally clear my head. Back in December of 2023, I actually wrote down. I keep a journal of things that I want, of my wishes, my prayers, things that I want pretty much in life, or things that have come true for me in life. And on I believe December 23rd, I wrote in my journal that I wanted a work from home job, regular 9 to 5, or a office job that's only 3/12. Okay, now for most nurses know, like, it's very hard to get an office job, like a primary care office that's just for that does 12-hour shifts. You see that mostly in urgent care and also in the hospitals. So I wasn't really that hopeful. And then I wanted a work from home job from 9 to 5, seeing patients, that would give me the same salary that I was making driving 1 hour to go to with my current job. So I wrote that in my journal on December 23rd, and I fasted for 3 days. I prayed, and then I pretty much asked God to tell me what he wanted me to do. And that's when pretty much God, my answer was to leave my job. But y'all, I was being hard-headed, didn't listen. You know, that was back in December, and then I didn't quit till August. So I quit the job, and then I didn't even, like, my husband knew I was thinking about it, but I didn't even tell him when I gave him my 2 weeks notice. I just came home like, hey, I put my 2 weeks notice in, I'm done. Even our job required like at least 60 days. I didn't even want to give him the 60 days. I did 2 weeks and I was out. So I started applying for jobs. I wasn't really getting anything. I started applying for, like, I got so desperate that I started applying for jobs that I know I wouldn't even like, but I'm like, I gotta stop. So I was like, I gotta start praying back up again. And I went back to my journal and I noticed that, my ideal job would be to work from home. So I have a little bit more flexibility. I can still be able to do the real estate if I wanted to. So I kept applying. I applied for a couple remote jobs. I had an interview. One of them didn't turn out, but it was just a lot of fun. And then finally, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't even remember why it was so late, and something told me to go on Indeed, and I went and I saw this remote position, and I applied for it. And then they literally got back to me like the next day and they wanted to do an interview. I did an interview, and they were like, okay, it's good. We're gonna, we want to move forward with you. But I never got an official offer letter. The HR person, the credentialing person, like, sent me an email for all these documents. I'm like, well, hey, you guys want these documents out, but I haven't gotten anything in writing yet. And I need to tell, I haven't got anything in writing yet. I'm not comfortable giving you all these like documents and stuff when I don't have an official letter. So then I never heard back from them for like another 2 weeks, and then I was like, I wanted to call them, how you wanted, like, what's going on, but something, God was like, just relax, stand still. So I relaxed, and then finally God told me, okay, you can reach out to them again. So I reached out to the recruiter person that I was talking to, and he was like, okay, well, because actually the original position that I applied for, they apparently was overnight. I don't even remember it being overnight. And then when I spoke to my husband about it, he didn't want me to do overnight. I was really disappointed because I didn't mind doing overnight. He's like, hey, you're about to have a baby, you have another child, really it's not a good idea. So I was like, fine, I'm going to listen to you, I'm not going to do it. So I told them after my interview, the first interview, that I didn't want to do the overnight and I wanted to do something 9 to 5, full time. So they told me they'll get back to me, and that's when I didn't hear back from them for like 2 weeks. And then once I reached back to them, like 2 weeks later, when God finally told me it's okay, you can reach back out. And then they were like, okay, when can you do an interview? Because it's a different department for the job, the 9 to 5 that I wanted to do. So they wanted me to do a second interview with that department. So I was like, yeah, I'm available. It just happened. I'm available anytime, like Monday, Friday. So they set up the interview for me like for Friday, 11:30. I was home. I did it. It was via Zoom. And I fully made sure, like, hey, I want to make sure this job is fully remote. It's like, yep, it's fully remote. You don't have to go anywhere. You're going to see patients via video, sometimes phone call, but we prefer you see patients via video. I was like, oh, this is excellent. They went over everything. The interview went well. I wasn't even nervous. It was just very chill. They didn't really ask me like hard questions. Just like, oh, what would you do if this happened? Like, these are things I've already dealt with being a nurse practitioner for 4 years. So it wasn't even like a big deal. They didn't even like ask me like what do you see yourself in 5 years? It was nothing like that. It was just like, when can you start? You get this patient, something happens. How do you deal with difficult patients? How do you deal with non-compliant patients? Like, okay, well, these are things I've seen in real life. So it wasn't a big deal. It went well. And then the recruiter, he's the HR person, called me like maybe like 20 minutes after the interview. He's like, hey, how'd it go? How'd everything? I'm like, oh, it went well. He was like, you still interested in? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, they want to give you an offer. What do you want? Actually, during my interview, they asked me how much I wanted to get paid. I was like, I didn't want to tell them a number. I was like, well, I don't know what your benefits are and like your budget, but I had a certain number in my head because that's what I prayed for. I had in my head and also in my diary that I did not want to accept any position that pays less than a certain amount. It has to be a minimum of this for me to take it. I don't care if it's remote or not. I have to make this exact amount of money. So I had that minimum in mind. But sometimes you may give them your number, but they might have more. They could probably pay you more. So I let them come back to me. So then when the recruiter called me after, he insisted on me giving him a number. So I was like, okay, well, I want between this and that. I want between this number and that number. And then I told them is what I was making before. And I know they couldn't match that because it's not really a consistent job. It was like a PRN thing where I was getting like, it was an insane amount of money, but it wasn't consistent. So you couldn't really make that same amount of money consistently. So you're like, well, we can't match that, but this is what we can do. Obviously, I knew they weren't going to be able to match it, but I just wanted to give them a number. So I was like, okay, well, so obviously I went maybe like $10 more, $10 or $15 more above the $10 or $15 per hourly more than what I was making now. I'm like, okay, shoot my shot, whatever. So I told him that number. He's like, ooh, I'm going to try. But on the low end, are you happy with the low end? I'm like, maybe, but I would rather this number. If you like, at worst case, I want this number. So he's like, okay, well, let me talk to them and see what their budget is. And, we do have other benefits. They have 401k, they have health care. Obviously you have to pay into it. Vision, dental, all that good stuff. So I was like, okay, good. He told me he'll get back to me. So I'm like, oh man, I'm not going to hear from them for another 2 weeks. He literally calls me back like 15 minutes. He's like, okay, they're going to go with the number that you want. And I was like, what? And that part of me was like, I should have asked for more. But it was still way more than what I had written in my diary and what I have prayed God to give me. So they're like, okay, well, they're fine with that. They literally sent me like the offer letter with my hourly rate on there. Like by 1:30, I was hired. Like did the interview at 11:30, 1:30, I was already hired and signed my offer letter over to them. Got all this HR stuff. This was a Friday. Was it a Friday? I can't. Anyways, so 2 days later, it was like the weekend. I was happy. And then I started the job like literally 3 days later. Like I did 1 day of training and then another day. And then I was like pretty much, I have officially finished my first week by myself, without anybody orienting me. And it's not bad at all. It's still like what what I used to do, but I get to be at home. And being pregnant and being so uncomfortable now, I like not having to wear pants to go to work. So so it's been great. And I'm like, so I can't thank God enough. Like, I never thought I would even get this type of position, like a fully remote nurse practitioner position, for the salary that I wanted. I thought was being unrealistic, because the salary that I wanted, most of them were in person. Okay. So the fact that I was able to get even $16,000 more than what I was even making before, and what I even put in my diary, it was only God. So I'm just like so thankful. Like I just like want to tell everybody like the good thing that God has done for me. Like, I'm telling you, nothing is impossible when it comes to God, and don't ever sell yourself short. God tells you to do something, there's a reason why he's telling you to do it. Listen to your heart, listen to your intuition, listen to what God is telling you. Because at the end of the day, anything is possible when you have God on your side. So that's my testimony of how I got my work from home job after quitting a toxic in-person job. And so far, like I said, so far it's not bad. It's busy, but I don't mind doing it. It's what I would have done being in person. Now I get to do it in the comfort of my own home and save money on my car is not gas, but I save money on like charging my car every day to have to drive an hour. So very, very pleased, and I get to make my own schedule. So thank you, Father. And I hope and pray that if you're watching this, that God will also bless you with a job that you're looking for that fits all your criteria. In Jesus' mighty name. Amen.